have a pretty special guest that I've been dying to know the answer to a question that she has asked me earlier in the week, but I'm going to let my audience know who this is first. It's Reverend Robyne Marie. She is a writer, producer, author, life coach, reverend. Oh my God, she does all kinds of stuff, and I am not even getting the tip of the iceberg with that. So without further ado, Robyne, how are you tonight?
Hello, Selena.
Hello. It's good to have you on finally. We've had to reschedule a couple times due to both of our crazy schedules, but I'm finally glad we nailed it down.
No, it's an honor to be on.
Yeah, thank you very much. It's an honor to have you on, actually. Can you, for those of you out there who are not actually familiar with Robyne, can you go ahead and tell them a little bit about what I didn't touch on, just a little bit about you other than that? Besides being an awesome numerologist.
You know, my abilities and everything, I'm known as a medium, first and foremost. And that started when I was about 4 years old. And my abilities developed from there. And, of course, I went into numerology. I do palmistry, tarot, all kinds of divination. And, just keep expanding on that as I go.
Wow, yeah. I mean, you've pretty much covered almost everything except for demonology, which is on the other opposite end.
I work with that, actually.
Ooh, okay, well, I didn't see that in there, so
yes.
that kind of scares me.
It's not my specialty, but I usually go out and I assess things because I'm a behavioral psychologist. So I get to rule out a lot of things, and then applying parapsychology to that, which is a branch of psychology. Then we're able to, look at the spiritual side of things and the scientific and, help people that are out there. And then I bring in an actual demonologist. I usually work with Carl Johnson or Bill Bean.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen a lot of things with you and Bill Bean doing events together and things like that and talks and stuff.
He's my best friend.
Oh, cool. I figured
everybody loves Bill.
I can't wait to meet Bill, and I've heard a lot of. I've seen Carl on Ghost Adventures and actually Paranormal. No, it's Paranormal State and Psychic Kids, I believe. No, it was Paranormal State. I saw him on, and he was with the I Am Six. Was that not him?
Carl,
helping with that?
Sure. He winds up on a lot of shows like I do, and he writes for certain things. We do research papers and things to help on specific cases that sometimes wind up on shows. Cool. So we have our hand in a lot of things, but Carl is the original ghost hunter.
Ah, okay.
Working with Jason and Grant. He did the first 3 years of the show. So I'm very honored to be working with someone like that.
No doubt. It's kind of like when I got the honor to work with the Klings and Chip Coffey. That was kind of huge for me.
Chip's wonderful.
I know. I love him. He's amazing. He's so funny. But I was looking over stuff that you do, which is like vast and many, and I was like really interested in the photo scrying. And for those of you who don't know what that is, can you explain what that is to the audience?
Yes, up until now, we haven't found anybody world over that's able to do this. Even psychics don't really understand it when I speak to them, and they'll say, oh, I do that, but it's not exactly. Every psychic or medium can take a photo and do a reading of it. I could have a picture of you and give you a full reading just by looking at you, as I could in person.
Right.
But what photo scrying is, just think when we go out on investigations. In fact, this is where it's very helpful. And also on police cases that I work on. They can give me a full set of photographs. And I see live and animated spirits right in the photos.
Wow.
So it would be just like me physically being there.
Okay, that is really interesting.
Sometimes, they can come right out of the photo, and manifest in person. Or visit me later, like, Eric Reisinger knows that. He's running the show, but he knows how that can be. They feel comfortable with me making contact with them, the spirits, that is. Right. So maybe in a couple of weeks, they might come back to visit me.
Well, Lisa and John, who have the show on right before me, I went up to Missouri, and in the John Wise mansion, we had encountered a big, huge, well, he wasn't huge, but he was tall hat man. And he was following me around, and quite often, and we caught it on video, and John was like kidding me because I just added a new person to Fear named Lisa Hatman, and he goes, hold on now, I thought that was our friend and John Wise, and I'm like, yeah, I thought that was him too. He goes, I think he went home with you because we haven't seen him since he left, and I'm like, oh.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I had an aura cleansing yesterday, and there was some sort of a psychic black something behind me that was like, and it got gone. But anyway, I don't know if that was him or not, but either way.
You know what, and I want to say something about that. Even though this show, we're not, really discussing about the paranormal end of things, but I'd like to add to that I invite them home. I always think, again, applying psychology to it. I like to give healing to them. Right. And many times the nasty ones or poltergeists or, if they're throwing something or the energy feels funky, let's help them. Banishing them doesn't seem to work.
No, it makes them mad.
It's kind of like if you came over to visit, and you're the guest that never leaves. One of those, you invite them to dinner and they just never go home. And if I told you to get out, you'd be pretty offended. Right. And that may have been their home too. So you have to consider that. So I try to heal them. And I really believe, and I see this, over decades of doing this, that the ones that go home with you, they're with you for a reason. Because you're calming them, or maybe you're challenging them in a certain way. It can work either way, but they're with you for a reason.
Okay.
So sometimes that's a good way to get them to move from that property. Not that you want them with you forever.
No.
But they work through things, or they're communicating with you in different ways. And then they'll move on. Maybe that will be the time that they cross over, as some people like to say. Or if you look at other religions and Far Eastern cultures, they're coming to nirvana. They're getting to a very peaceful place.
Okay. All right. What do you think about, I wanted to ask your opinion while I had you on, about crossing spirits over. Do you believe that's possible? Is that not possible? I mean, do you believe you can do that? Or do you do that?
I do believe it, but again, it's using the labels. And I think looking at things through a parapsychologist's eyes, and we try to take more the scientific. So we have to stay neutral. So if we take organized religions out of things, and, I'm raised Roman Catholic and spent 3 years at a convent and this and that. So it's not that I dismiss it or whatever your religion is, but I think if we take those rituals or labels out of the equation, we can look at balancing. So we have to balance the energy. And again, I'm going to get into karma using numerology and all those types of beliefs and practices. It's about balancing your life, whether you're here on this plane or you're in the next plane,
right?
Or whatever plane you're on.
Yeah, whatever it is that we go to. That's what I search for answers. And the questions that I ask are probably have been asked before, but when you're 4 and 5 years into the paranormal and you go on so many investigations, and I know the spirits get so sick of the same old questions, and I know I can't help so and so that passed away in 40, but I want to know what they saw on their travels. What did they see when they get there? Do we really get to see our relatives? Things like that. That's the kind of things that I am in search of. Do I really get to see my mom when I pass away? Or is that just something that somebody's been kind of blowing up my, not a skirt because I don't wear skirts, but
yes.
You know what I mean?
You need confirmation of that.
Exactly.
And so we look at people that have had near-death experiences, unfortunately, and fortunately I have had one, so I've been on the other side. So I've always been a medium, which means that you actually walk, in being in a medium position, you're the bridge between the planes. So I'm somewhere in the middle. I can put my hand into the living and I can reach over onto the other side. So I see both, and through channeling and trans-channeling and all of that, I can physically see how the spirits see.
Wow. That is so cool. Sometimes that might be cool, and sometimes that might not. Just like with me.
I know. It's my life, so I've accepted it. Some people wonder if, that's difficult to live with. But I've never known anything different.
Yeah, well, me being an empath, I didn't know what I was for so long. I thought I was just really emotional basket case and bipolar possibly, and I was even misdiagnosed as that. But, being an empath and opening up myself, I'm starting to now hear, like, just names come in my head, and I'm like, and I'm told not to doubt myself, not to second guess.
Exactly.
But it's kind of hard to deal with when you've been soaking in everyone else's stuff for 45 years to go, okay, now I'm gonna shield. And that's where I'm kind of right now at, is trying to learn how to shield and ground myself, because a lot of things have been coming at me lately, and it's been really tough. I've just been holding my ground and meditating and praying a lot. And, I know in my heart of hearts what the truth is. And so I just let it go. There's nothing I can do about whatever's going on, but it's hard for an empath to do that, because we want to peace and harmony and to feel everybody, gets along. And it's been really tough. But with you having that ability to go from that to that, it's hard enough for me to deal with the living. And then when I do get on investigations,
I know.
So I don't know if I would, sometimes they say it's a curse, and sometimes they say it could be a blessing. So that could be scary at times to see what I
actually find the ghosts far more exciting to hang out with. They have a wonderful sense of humor, and they're pretty calm, and they really don't care anymore.
Right.
So what you see is what you get, and that doesn't always happen with living.
No, I have a saying that's the reason I hang out doing what I do with the dead, because they don't hurt me near as bad as the living people. They're not as scary to me as living people, because living people can be pretty evil. And I haven't, knock on wood, I haven't provoked a mean spirit or tried to provoke. I try to treat them with respect. And I try to treat them as if they're my family member that I've lost, or my grandmother, or someone else's grandmother. And I don't go in there screaming and yelling and demanding them to speak to me, because you don't really know what you're pissing off, you know what I'm saying? And I don't really want to piss anything off,
Not everything came from humanity. Not everything's human as we are. There's many planets, there's many universes, and everything that's out there, and we really have to look at things that way. And that's where I say, what if it is a demon? Well, what is a demon?
Right.
How are they upset with us being a Christian? Why are they turning up, a cross upside down? Why, we could throw holy water on them. They have no concept of what holy water is. If it's an elemental, if it's an extraterrestrial, what do they know of that? It means something to us.
Right.
So when I'm out on a demonic case or anything, I always respect the clients that we're working with.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong for us to go through those rituals, but don't expect to say, well, now I bless you and poof, you're gone.
Right.
It means nothing to the other party.
Right.
So we have to try, as you say, enter things respectfully.
Yes.
Even if they're absolutely, crazy and there's insane things going on and you wind up at Amityville Horror or something like that. Start to send them healing.
Yes.
We have to rise above that. So just think, if you're dealing with a bully in person, how would you address that?
Yeah.
You can't shoot them dead.
No, you can't do that. No, it might be a thought that could pass through someone's mind at times. But you know what? It's more about of the bully than it is the actual person that they're attacking. So that's the way I've looked at that kind of situation. And just I'm going to rise above it, because I know that in my heart of hearts that it's not, what I'm saying, but you have to.
Don't listen to what I'm saying up there.
Huh?
But I talk to them like they're children.
Oh, okay.
And I figure, if you had a 10-year-old that was totally out of control and jumping on your furniture or throwing things, how would you address it? You have to be the bigger person.
Right.
Find out what their beef is. Even a demon, I ask them, why are you doing this? Why is there blood coming out of the walls?
Wow.
Why are you giving me that visual?
Yes.
And you start to look at their situation. Well, I was killed in a car accident out in front of this house. And again, thinking of Amityville, the whole family was shot and killed, Think of that person's karma that he brought to the other side with him.
Oh,
He's in pain that he did that. So sure, you're going to see twisted faces and black mists and all these negative things that we associate negativity with.
But it's just their own hell. They're in
hell.
Right?
That's exactly. And even our label of what's heaven and hell, they're in a karmic hell.
Ah.
So how do we help them find that peace? And, as a Christian, you say crossover into heaven,
right.
But again, Eastern religions believe, it's finding that nirvana, finding the peace within yourself.
Uh-huh.
And then they go away. Then they're fine.
Right. Well, so, okay, I wanted to ask you, I've been to Villisca, the Villisca Axe Murder House.
Oh, yeah.
And this was before I even had a clue that I was an empath, okay? And I had no idea why I was getting pissed at investigations or sick at investigations or dizzy sometimes. Not all the time, but just every once in a while. Or I'd get anxious or giddy like little kids, or something. It was just, I couldn't explain it. But at that place, that affected me so much that it's still stuck in my craw, because for one, it has to do with kids, and that bothers the ever-loving crap out of me, because I just hate that they have to stay in that environment, that they were so scared, and I'm sure that the fear that went through them as they were being killed was just overwhelming. And so we're in there and we're investigating, and we're trying to have communication with the children. And my co-founder has a little bit of medium skills and things like that. And so we were almost having the kids from being scared in the corner of the closet coming out. And then I saw something stick its head out of the attic door, and I was like, yeah, and I doubted what I saw. And I'm like in my head trying to debunk it as a car light going through the window, whatever. And then it came out again. And all of a sudden, the mama bear came out in me, and I went completely off on this thing. Now, I've been told since we left the place, it still bothers me that those kids are being kind of like held prisoner by this entity there. Now, I didn't know if that was all the way real, but man, I felt it, and there has been other people that have felt that same exact thing, that he's holding them kind of a hostage and having to replay it over and over and over. And I'm just like, how in the world can this entity or whatever still exist there? Why is he still there, and why is he holding those children for them to not go on? That's a question that I want to find out. I just don't understand.
First off, a couple of things about that. There's no sense of time on the other side. So to us, that seems like years and years and years since it happened. But to them, just think how long it takes to get over a broken heart here in the living, or, something tragic that happened to you as a kid. We may carry that to our 90s, before we pass away. And that's 90 years gone by since something was done to us. So, there's a lot of trauma there. And I'm certain there's a lot of residual energy. And of course, you as an empath, you're feeling all that trauma. So you're feeling the sense of crying, the sense of being afraid, being chased, being trapped. So it does just play over and over and over again.
Yeah, and that, it's like it has bothered me. And someone told me that the entity there has me in a kind of a hold because I feel pity for those children.
Oh,
And, so I've got to learn how to, I want to get those kids help, and I don't know how to do that. You know what I mean? And I can't go to Iowa to do it.
Well, listen, don't anybody listen to the archives, because I'm going to say something. All of these places we go to, we could do cleansings. We could release a lot of these spirits. Right. We can apply psychology. We can apply parapsychology. We can give them spiritual healing and all of that to help them move on. Again, balancing their karma and moving them outside of all this tragedy that they suffered.
Right.
But could we sell tickets to a haunted location? Would you go back there again if it was peaceful and quiet?
Probably not.
No, then it would be a bed and breakfast, right?
Yeah. And hopefully a door would shut by itself. Hopefully another spirit would stop by, that wasn't stuck, that was cool, and just kind of go, oh, let me check this place out,
Yeah, happy, and it just might. There's ones that I calm down. If I went to your house and you said there's a lot going on, and someone like myself is able to physically see them, audibly hear them, I smell, taste, touch, I use all my senses, and I can tell you, that's your father's sister that passed away. Okay? You say, oh, I really missed my aunt. Well, sure, that's why she reconnects with you. So, we could calm her down, because maybe she doesn't like the color of your wallpaper. You could be in grandma's house. I see that many times. I'm going to say a widow. This was actually in Connecticut. This widow said she had a lot of activity in her bedroom and things started slamming. And I said, well, what happened back when that began? And she said, I don't know. She said, I just remember it was right after I painted the house. So I had to look into it. She was a widow. And I said, well, did he like wallpaper or woodwork, or did you paint over something he didn't want? And she said, well, he never liked brown, and I painted all the interior is brown. All like tans and browns and neutral colors. And she said, when he was alive, he never let me do that.
Oh, wow.
So I said, you might want to paint over it.
That's
talk to him. Tell him I'm here now, and please understand, be respectful, explain to him that's what you want. Wow.
That's kind of crazy. Well, okay, so I've waited as long as I can wait now, and I've been waiting for this for a while. So before you get started, I wanted to let everyone know, or you to explain kind of in a little synopsis, what numerology is and how it actually works real quick.
Certainly.
If that, I'm not real quick. I know it's going to be, but
No, and I'm taking excerpts from my book.
Okay.
Okay, so which will eventually be out. I'm not even going to promise when. Numerology is a belief in divine, mystical, and special relationships between numbers and some coinciding events they have. There's many different systems, different traditions, and different beliefs, and that comes through all different religions, have their own kind of spin on it. We're looking back around the 14,000s in BC. Egypt, we start seeing this surfacing, Babylonia. So we're going back to biblical days. And the ancient Chaldeans, they actually developed this system, what we see from, back early in time. This gets into the Hebrew Kabbalah. Okay. And the Kabbalah has this whole theory in it about numerology. So it's very spiritual. It's very biblical. It comes from the divine. So if you want to say God or whoever it is, it's a higher power, passes this on to us. A very common question is, does this practice go against what we believe as Christians? No, it actually goes with our Christian beliefs.
Okay.
And now, of course, we're hearing this when we look back in, the Dark Ages and the Middle Ages, medieval times and all of that they started to use these. And the Knights Templar and all of that, we're looking into things around Rome and the popes and all of that use numbers. They're supposed to be codes to the universe or codes to our religion within the Bible. And, of course, you hear in the Bible and other religious books, it was 40 days and 40 nights, or 7 this or 7 that, So each of those numbers has a definition to them.
Okay.
We have to think about balancing. It goes along with everything I was just saying about working with spirits. It's about balance. So every number, 1 through 9, okay, this is what we're working on, basic number line. Every number has a positive trait and a negative trait. So we are able to calculate numbers within our own lives, such as our birthday, which I'll get to yours, which goes along with everything you just told me that you're feeling, being an empath and everything, is your number of birth.
Wow. Okay.
Okay? So you chose that karma. It has to do with predestiny. We like to say God chose our path in life. We were working with him. Okay? Or her.
Right.
I think of her. But it has to be a woman because we got it right.
It's all right. You know what? It's okay. I go with the woman. That's all good with me.
In looking at that, we chose our path. And this is where, in working around numbers, there has to be reincarnation, because you must experience every number, because it gives you a different vibration when you're born. So we come back again to be something else and experience a whole different path. So we're coming back at least 9 times. Okay?
Wow.
So
that's why they say cats have 9 lives then, huh? Is that where that comes from?
So, and that might be a key.
Huh. All right then. So without further waiting, I would like to hear what...
Yeah, you just want to know about yours.
Yeah. Oh,
okay.
I know.
So, now, as I said, each number has a positive and negative trait. So I'll tell everybody out there how they can do calculations. This has nothing to do with psychic abilities. This is a science. So everybody can use these theories, whatever theory you want to go by. I use Chaldean from the Kabbalah.
Okay.
There is Pythagoras, which is more numerically based. If you're kind of nerdy and, you prefer numbers, a computer person or something like that, you might want to use the Pythagorean theory that they have. Okay, so as I said, all different religions have something that, coincides with this. I'm going to tell you that look for the definitions. You can contact someone like myself that I do a full chart. The strongest influence that you have in your life is the day that you were born. So just think of astrology, because it coincides with the numbers in astrology. We calculate numbers of the stars, of the placement, of where we were, what time we were born, and it means something. Okay? And different for each of us. A minute off that you and I were born from, we could have been born on the same day, but a different minute off can change the whole path. Oh, wow. And that's kind of how this works. Okay. So we start, as I said, the strongest influence is the day you were born. Then we can add your full birthday, the day, the month, and the year together. The day you were born is called the number of destiny. Okay. It's really who you are. That's your personality traits. That's what you're going to put out into the universe. Okay? How you connect with it. Life's path, that's the total of your birth date. So everybody that's listening to us tonight can add up their number and see what that comes out to. So the definition of that number is what's handed to you.
Okay.
So that's the path, the journey that you have to go through.
Okay.
But your destiny is how you handle it.
Okay.
We could be going down the same path, and you're going to react totally different than I do. Okay, so that's why.
Okay.
So we're a whole series of numbers. I'm going to work with yours.
Okay.
On December 4th, okay, a best friend born on that day, so I know this very well. We're going to work with the number of the day that you were born, the 4th.
Okay.
The 4th is your number of destiny. I can tell you your career. I can tell you colors you should wear. I can tell you gems that you should wear, the foods you should eat, the health things that you should watch out for. And that doesn't mean you're going to develop them. It just means things that you maybe have, again, a preconception to, a pre-sensitivity to. So you can say, okay, I need to watch out for this or this and this.
Okay.
Okay, it's your weakness.
Okay.
So it's good to know that because you can be guarded. Maybe you're in a career that you absolutely hate and you don't understand why. And I can tell you what you should be doing. Because certain traits, certain career paths go along with that number. You have the most special one. And it's not because I like you and not because I have you here tonight. Using the number 4, you are a guardian angel here on earth.
Oh, wow.
Okay? It's a very, very special birthday that you have, being born under that. On the flip side of it, I said good and positive traits, and certainly negative, heavy things that come with that karma as well.
Okay.
You have walked through other lifetimes in a very, very difficult path, okay? You may have lived in the axe murderer house.
Oh, wow.
You may have cheated somebody. You may have killed someone. You may have really suffered, okay, in a karmic way.
Okay.
You may have been an alcoholic, a drug user, all of those things come along with it. And you could have done that over 100 lifetimes. You come in as a 4 this time because the vibration around that is that you're able to recognize these things in other people.
Uh-huh.
And you can do it with the spirits as well. You're an empath. You feel for them. You feel when you come against something that we would label as demonic. You start taking on those physical characteristics because you've been there. Okay?
Okay.
So, maybe you were Lizzie Borden.
Wow.
So I'm just using that as example.
Right. Right.
So now you become a ghost hunter and you go to Lizzie Borden house and you start to calm the energy because you feel it. Other people don't, but you will. You're supposed to be working in social services. Okay? Medical positions, mental health positions, counselors, therapy, and again, addictions, recovery. Okay?
Wow. That is so weird to say that.
Any group of people. No, it fits.
When I was actually, I think I was in my early 20s, and I lived in Chicago. I did take college courses for intro to addictions counseling. So, and I just was like, because my uncles were both heroin addicts, and they both passed away, and they both overdosed, and so I was like, because my family went through all that, I wanted to, change that.
That's what called you to it. But let me tell you something else. If you think about reincarnation, and I said you chose that path, whether you did it with your divine spirit or whatever that put you on that path, you were born into that family for a reason. Because 4s are supposed to save lives. Even on a spiritual level. So you came across their path because something you said, something you did, even a hello, Maybe that's all that person needed that day, was one person to love them.
Right.
As a kid, and say hello, I love you, Uncle. When maybe the whole world hated them.
Right.
You're the one that smiled, you know, and that can really change someone's life. You know?
Cool. So
right.
Is that, what else you got? You got anything else?
You're supposed to be wearing certain colors because, again, this balances you. Let's say, you know, you don't feel so great when you wear black. Maybe you feel kind of depressed. Maybe you feel like you want to attack people. You know, you're more feisty or whatever. You have to wear electric blue or cobalt blue. Okay, very vibrant gem tone. Silver. Okay, so don't wear a lot of gold. You want to wear more silvers.
Oh yeah, I love.
And again, in the clothing, it's perfect. And sometimes you're naturally drawn to do this, but this confirms why. Ocean green, so like sea foam, something like that. Paint the walls of your house that color, and you feel very calm.
I did. It's actually Vermont sage or whatever. It's a green. I'm laughing because I wore a cobalt blue shirt that went with my shorts when we were filming with Chip. And they had given, or he had bought or something, a shirt from the Cars on the Route store. And it had it was black, and it had all these cars and stuff on it. And there was a car that he said, girl, you got to wear that shirt over that blue shirt because it makes your eyeballs pop. And Brad ended up making fun of it, the outer shirt that Chip let me wear in the actual DVD. And Chip said that blue made my eyes pop. And that was exactly the color was electric blue. So,
and it was making you feel very vibrant.
Yeah, we were having a great time. Yeah, definitely. Black really doesn't bother me. I wear black a lot, I guess, but it doesn't depress me, thank goodness. But blue does make me feel better, and I wear silver.
But you'll feel that difference.
Yeah, that's crazy. Okay, yeah.
The gems you're supposed to wear are sapphire, again, bringing in that vibrant blue. Quartz, any kind of quartz, and you can blend them in jewelry or whatever. And azurite. Okay, which can have that blue vein through it. And malachite.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Which has that silver vein going through it, as you know.
It's in my medicine bag.
Carry them. Okay,
I do.
Carry a little medicine bag. Certainly wear it when you're investigating. Tuck it into your pocket or whatever, and wear it as jewelry. Put it right next to your skin. That's going to be the most beneficial.
Okay.
Well, again, sticking with these colors, it says to avoid highly seasoned foods. And I know where you live, you have a lot of Southwestern cooking, but you're not going to feel good if you keep having highly spicy hot foods.
Heartburn every time. Okay. Yep. Okay.
So, and we all know a lot of people can experience that, but again, that's your weakness. Okay? So you're not going to feel as well taking that in. No red meat.
Oh.
Sorry. But if you were able to minimize it, maybe have it a couple of times a week and eat seafood like I do, because I like that.
Seafood company, so.
Switch it up and see if you feel an improvement.
Okay.
That's what's nice about this. You can kind of play with it and try things out. It doesn't hurt. Spinach, bringing that green in again. You must eat spinach. Yours is very simple. A lot of these numbers have a lot of foods that they can eat. But yours particularly is spinach.
Huh. Okay.
Okay, Popeye?
All right, I got it.
Sage, wintergreen, and Iceland moss you can take in either pill form or liquid form. And you add those like you take vitamins every day. And that's very healing and very calming to your system.
Okay. All right.
Okay. For health things, here's an interesting one. You're prone to accidents of electricity. Okay, so be very careful around that, getting shocks, being around, wires. I was going to say, having anything near a tub or water. Don't throw the blow dryer that way,
That's great. My dad's an electrician. He's a master electrician, and I tried to do some real simple wiring work, and I almost set my freaking bushes and house on fire. So I told him that I wouldn't mess with it anymore.
No.
That's hilarious. Okay.
And here's something funny. Watch out for lightning.
Oh.
Because you attract that electrical charge that's, even again within the universe.
Huh. Okay. Cool.
I was struck by lightning, so very mildly, thank goodness.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
What else? January and February, you have to watch for health problems.
Okay. All right.
So look back over the years, did you tend to always get sick like after the holidays? Did you always get a cold? Were you kind of depressed? We're getting into winter months, so the darkness and everything can depress you, loss of light. So, go tanning in January, February, because it's going to uplift your spirits.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right.
So those are some of the things that we know from doing numerology.
That's amazing. I really appreciate that. I was going to tell you that when we were talking earlier in the week about you asked my wife's birthday, and I said I wanted to tell you a really cool story about that. Now, numbers have always been kind of weird for me as far as not really so much with her, but my son, and something that happened in a prophetic dream being 12 years, 12 years, 12 years. It was just weird. But with her, it was really strange because 6 months after my mom passed away, I was going through a lot of her stuff and kind of, sorting through and giving somebody this that they wanted and, things like that. And I ran across this billfold in one of her old purses, and I opened the billfold, and there were pictures of family and friends from 1970s, and I'm going, oh, how funny, look at their hair, look at their lapels, oh my God, at the disco clothes, and then I started looking at the little cards and things that my mom, cut and keep, or just, to see what was important to her enough to keep up for that many years. So I saw this card. I pulled out this card, and it had, on the back of it, it had, prices for a 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, and they were dirt cheap. Okay, this is 1970s, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And then I flipped the card over, and it says, Spring Valley Condominiums, whatever, and then it has the lady's name marked out of it, and then it has Judy Limsky written on it. And I'm like, that's my wife's mom's name. So I brought it into her, and she goes, that's my mom's writing. Where did you get that? And I said, from my mom's wallet. And so she calls her mom, and her mom says, yeah, that's when we first moved to Dallas from Michigan. That was one of my first jobs as a leasing agent. So me and her lived in the same complex. My mom leased an apartment from her. We lived in the same complex when we were kids.
Yeah.
So then we separate, right? She goes to do her thing, I go do my thing. We both have different relationships, and we're at different parties when I'm with other girls. We're at different parties and don't even know each other is there, don't even have any clue that we're nothing. And then after I split up with my ex, and this has been over 18 years ago, I'm at a bar and I see her and I'm like just drawn to her, just drawn. And so we started talking and all this stuff, and then it was just instant. We played a game called Compatibility with a couple who'd been together for 10 years, and we tore their butts up. And I'm like, wow, this is kind of crazy. And so then after my mom passed away, we had been together for probably 6 or 7 years when my mom passed away. And we just celebrated our 18th anniversary. And it's so crazy because that, to me, is what that's what fate is meant to be.
It is. And so you can see that in the numbers, how they line up, too.
Okay, go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
You ready?
So you are very compatible, and we can see who isn't so compatible.
Right.
So at least you can choose, and you know what you're dealing with when you meet someone. So coming to me when you do meet someone, you look at what their birthday is, or if you're having unhappiness in a relationship, I can usually tell you why. and it's because your numbers don't coincide with each other. She's a 6. So
Okay.
with the 6, a 6 and 9, those are the extreme numbers. It would be positive and negative. The 6 is very, very positive. Okay, she's the light. She's goodness. She's harmony. Yeah. Okay, very beautiful person. With you, and you can do this with names too. I'll tell you about Jamatra. We're getting late in the show, but with Jamatra, we have a number that's assigned to every letter of the alphabet, and that gives off a vibration. So using your name and that calculation, you see, where the balance is. So you have the 9 and she has the 6 in her birthday. So that's where you meet with each other. You bring her into reality when she sees everything through rose-colored glasses.
Okay.
Okay. Or, you can kind of steer her away from somebody that might be cheating her in some way, because she wants to see the good in people.
Oh, yeah.
All right. And you're the 9, and you're the darkness.
I'm the real.
It's power, it's strength, it's that courage where she might be too sweet. She wouldn't want to offend anybody, so she's not going to tell him, I think maybe you're cheating me out of something. She'd just say, okay, I'll take it and I'll go home. Right. And she'll cry to you, and you'll have to go down there and beat them with a bat. Yeah. Okay, because you're that 9. But this is how you balance, and it's perfect.
Cool. Yeah, I think it's pretty. I think she's pretty awesome too, and she does. When I get, because I am that fire or whatever, I get real wired up, and she brings me down and calms me down back to where I need to be.
And it works both ways. So you don't go off the deep end. She pulls you back to the middle.
Right.
Okay. And you have to go to that deep end many times, even in ghost hunting, because you're the 4. You're supposed to save people or save the spirits. Demonology would be very good for you.
Ooh, okay. I might look into that. I've always been kind of about it, but I guess that's probably why. Maybe
to save people.
Because I have been looking at more of, expanding my knowledge of the paranormal, not just from what I know, but try to touch on a lot like you have, try to get into, I don't have the ability like photo scrying and stuff like that because that's unique and awesome, but I would love to learn numerology. I would learn to, learn a little bit about demonology and things like that, because it's so funny because I've been nicknamed the ghost magnet, because whenever we're at an investigation, and it seems to be they're always standing beside me, standing behind me, trying to touch me, and I'm like, okay, what is going on? I mean, even when we were doing spirit communication at Coffee Talk, Chips had 4, flashlights out. Mm-hmm. He would ask them to turn the flashlights on. They weren't turning on over there by him because he had me up on stage with him. They were coming up on my side, and I'm like, oh my God. And he goes,
but just think, does that happen with the living as well? Do strangers come up to you and just tell you their whole entire life?
Oh my God.
Whether you want to hear it or not?
Oh yes. I try not, on planes it's the worst because I always have the middle seat, and this last time going to Seattle, this lady sat down, and within a minute I'm like, God dog it. Yeah. I was feeling her betrayal. Her self-esteem was on the ground. I knew exactly what her story was before she even said a word. And I said, just don't say anything to her, because if you do, it's just like, tell me your life story on my head. Uh-huh. And we were descending, and I said, it's beautiful out there. And she goes, yeah, I'm here getting away from my husband because he's cheating on me.
And there it just poured out. That's all you had to say. But, you said I wear it on my forehead, but it's actually a little bit higher. It's all in your aura around you, and they know karmically they're supposed to come to you for help, and the spirits will too. They know you can guide them because you went through all the crap in past lifetimes. You've been where they were.
Okay, that makes sense, because it's been happening quite often too. Just like at Andrew Jackson in New Orleans, a little kid's spirit was in the corner hiding, and I said, I have a little boy. You can come sit by me. I love little boys. You want to play with trucks? Is there something we can play with? He came right over the periscope that I had there, was sitting there, went off, and I mean, he sat down and my whole right side was freezing, and I had my hands like on my knees because we were sitting down on his level in, Indian style. And all of a sudden, my little finger, my pinky, and my other finger next to it just went spider web and freezing cold. And I went, it's holding my hand. And it was the most cool experience. But like I said, the little boys and the little girls and the little kids, they just, it does something to me. I think that, maybe that's the connection that I have, that maybe I can help those little kids maybe, go to the life or whatever.
And that's it. That's you could have been a parent in a past life that totally ignored their child or didn't help them or lost a child. And so now you're drawn to them and you're going to help them in this lifetime.
Wow. That's pretty freaking awesome.
So there's much more, we're just kind of going over things in a half an hour here, but there's much more that this can delve into, and it starts to help you understand, why am I here? We all have those bad days that we say, why am I even alive? I don't get it.
What is all this about?
Or why am I always put in certain situations? Because we see patterns in our lives. And good ones as well. Why do I always hit the lottery? Okay, well, that would be nice.
Wouldn't it though? Wouldn't that be awesome?
Have your mate play the numbers, because 6, they tend to have money stick to them.
Yeah, and she's a lucky little fart, man. I'm telling you what, she really is. And I'm like, our friends don't even like to play poker with her anymore because she takes all their money. So, but, well, you know what? We're coming to the end of the show, but I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell people where they can find you and where you will be in an event soon so that they can get with you.
Yes, I am at RobynMarie.com, and it's RobynMarie.com. And I'm on every single social whatever that's out there. You can find me. Okay, just Google my name. I can't rob banks anymore because they can find me. So I'm out there. I have tons of events. I'm going to West Virginia this week. From there, I go to Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, back to New York and New Jersey, and that's all in the week following. So Halloween, it's going to take me all over New England.
Holy cow.
Please come out. You can book a reading with me. I'm going to be doing a lot of that because of the Halloween season.
Right.
I like to kind of do that annually.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Time to remember to check in.
Exactly. I really appreciate you reading my numbers and my numerology. That was amazing. And thank you so much for being on the show. And I will definitely have you back again so that we can actually get some questions and some numbers from the audience and see what you come up with.
I know. I'd love to do some readings for them. It's a lot of fun. And, I'll teach them more so they can do it at home. But thank you so much. And it's actually an honor to be in your presence. Namaste. Because you're a guardian angel.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You have a blessed week.
Thank you very much. Good night.
Right. See you next time. All right, everybody. That was Reverend Robyne Marie, and that was actually really cool, and I am so thankful that she did my numbers, and I'm kind of shocked to find out that I'm not actually a little devil, as I've been called before, with little horns. But anyway, I wanted to shout out to Eric and Kim for putting my show on every week. I really appreciate it. They're awesome. And check out their Metaluna store. I wanted to also tell you to come see all of us at HHL November 1st, which is History, Haunts, and Legends in Jefferson, Texas. It's going to be an amazing event. Lots of cool speakers and things going on. So get your tickets ASAP. And I wanted to thank my sponsors, which are Galena Murder Bordello and, Syntex Roof Systems. I want to also tell you to join me next week because I have Minda Wygand, who is the co-founder or founder, I believe, of One True Paranormal, and she will be here to tell you about a lot of things going on up in the Branson, Missouri area. I appreciate you being here with us tonight, and we'll look forward to you next week. Don't miss out. Have a great week, and peace out.